Adolescence. So I wanted to watch it because I said, okay, what is the hype about? So I watched it. I don't find it brilliant personally, not in the writing. And I mean, the acting is good, that I cannot criticize the acting. Even the dialogue, everything is so caricatural and so lazy. And it's obviously a propaganda piece. I mean, that's how I've seen it.
Welcome back, everyone, to another Sophie and Linda's Mood Talks. So, of course, never a shortage of things to talk about, as we know. There's always something happening, if not 500 all at once. And I guess I thought I'd throw it back to you, Linda. Do you want to lead the way today in the sort of the topic of discussion that you think is perhaps the most prescient thing to discuss today?
Okay, so like I told you earlier, it's like at at rush hour, when there's so much traffic
Yeah.
and you don't know, that's exactly, how many topics can we, there's so many things happening. But I wanted to discuss, because I've watched it, the new series that everybody's calling masterful and brilliant. I mean, and all the
The show. Do you want to name the show?
Yeah,
The actual show.
Adolescence. I
Yeah,
mean, with my French
Adolescence.
accent. Adolescence. So I wanted to watch it because I said, okay, what is the hype about? So I watched it. I don't find it brilliant personally, not in the writing. And I mean, the acting is good, that I cannot criticize the acting. But the even the dialogue, everything is so caricatural and so lazy. And it's obviously a propaganda piece. I mean, that's how I've seen it. The contempt that these people have for the white working class, which I would consider to be the salt of the earth, the people who are building our roads or buildings are working. I mean, like working people, like working people. And it's just the way, let's not even, before we go into the subject itself, the way they represent the father, the mother, the grandfather, the blog that goes to the pub and watch football. It's so cliche, it's so demeaning and insulting, because they brush a whole group, ethnic and socioeconomic group, in such a easy and insulting way. I find it absolutely revolting. They don't, there are knives attacks, and there is a rise. There has been a rise in knife attacks in the past, let's say, 2 decades, okay, in Europe. But they don't want to really discuss who are the victims and who are the perpetrators. So they choose this 15-year-old boy, who has any kid his age. I mean, for a long time, goes through puberty and has issues, with his own, not only sexuality, but popularity, because kids are under enormous pressure. I mean, you're a teacher, you know that. To be liked and to be liked, by girls, young boys, they want to be liked, and young girls, they want to be liked, not only in a sexual way, but in just
Friendships.
friendships and any kind of human relationships, because this is, they come out from childhood, and it's not even adulthood, but it's like the whole way before you get into adulthood. So you have to conform to a certain, way of being and of behaving anyway. So years ago, in my time, boys were his age were reading Penthouse and Playboy, they were looking at girls in magazines. Today, it's on social platforms, Instagram and everything. So when at a point when they were showing the pictures that he was looking at or whatever, it's not abnormal. It's normal for a kid his age. But there are so many subjects that are really, really, really concerning today. Just to tackle this one, I mean, like, to take this storyline.
They've clearly missed a massive opportunity to really explore where, especially for young boys, where things are going wrong. And I think, number one, we have lost the rite of passage, right? young boys used to have a rite of passage, whatever that passage may have been, just like girls would have to come into their manhood or whatever it is, to become into their adulthood as males and men. They've lost that. Now, what that was, once upon a time in some Indigenous communities, they still hold these things. They go walkabout. They take the boys. They have a sort of, once you turn 13, you go and learn to hunt. You go and learn to do this. You isolate yourself from the community to build whatever those skills are, resilience, whatever it is that boys need to do. They used to be in Boy Scouts. They used to be in these sorts of things. They used to have things like cadets or, I mean, you could say, well, that's all very aggressive and violent. But you know what? It's an organized structure that boys need to understand how they connect to each other and how they connect to a place. That has gone. That's gone. Cadets gone. There's no conscription in most countries. So the idea of some sort of rite of passage where you do some sort of military service, that's gone in most countries. The religious and the churches and the communities that used to house all these kids where they used to form and help form these communities and these connections has gone. All that's left are the schools, the internet, and a working family that usually is too busy with their own everything that's happening inside a family today. So, ripe for the taking. So, it's not the internet's fault. It's not, I'm not going to even say it's Andrew Tate's fault. I couldn't care less about Andrew Tate. You know, at this point, it's not about what he's espousing because there's much more and much worse out there, but they're confused because where they once used to belong, whether it was at school, whether it was at Scouts, whether it was in their church community group, whether it was at a sports club, whether it was wherever it was they belonged, if you're not an athlete, if you're not a jock, if you're not, well, you're not particularly religious, so you don't belong to a particular group, you don't have extended families and they're spread out amongst the place too, you tend to be a little bit lost and the internet becomes your friend. Slowly that's what starts to happen. But this isn't an Andrew Tate problem. This isn't a misogyny problem. This misogyny's been around for ages. This is a question of a young boy who has lost his rite of passage, doesn't understand how he becomes a man. They don't even know. They go to the extremes. They're incredibly effeminate and what we call the, you know, I don't want to say it pejoratively, but I will, you know, the beta males and I'm a feminist and I'm a this and I'm a that. And then you have the other side, which has turned incredibly misogynistic. I don't want to say that boys aren't misogynistic today. They are. There is an incredible spectrum now which has been pulled to the sides because we've lost the idea that, and I think women have a role to play in this as well. Like society, how it's evolved, the role of women. I mean, boys now feel like, what's the point of working hard? I won't get promoted. What's the point of putting in any effort if I'm not a woman or a minority and I can't get ahead in this sort of weird affirmative action and quota systems in a lot of what they have to fulfill? You know, a lot of the workplaces that have the, you know, their quotas. And even though some are abandoning the DEI thing, a lot of boys have been confused. I see it constantly.
Not only boys, girls too.
Girls as well, but
Girls as
boys more.
well.
Girls have been favoured in the sense that they have been, I suppose, in order to reverse the gap where women weren't allowed in school or universities or certain jobs, that has been completely tipped the other way. And I think, and there was a book, I can't even remember who wrote it, said, what about the boys? There's something very maligned happening to young boys. And if you don't harness that energy in a way that's constructive, and you could argue that cadets and military service and maybe even scouts is not, or hunting is not constructive, but take that away and you know what's left? Unfulfilled angst, uncertainty, and they are ripe to be trapped and lured into all sorts of nasty ways that they have been. So I think that's the one thing the show missed the opportunity to expose. The stereotypes you mentioned is just sickening. It's like, here we go again, especially coming after the Southport massacre. The stabbings were not by a white working class boy with two parents. We are not talking about the reality of what's happening in England. And again, this is unfair. It's not fair. You're not tackling the real issues. You're just trying to bring it in and flip the script. We're turning the victim into the aggressor again.
No,
Victim
because
as the
they
aggressor.
want to paint it. They want to paint it in a way that fits their narrative.
Always.
It's. I mean, even the psychologists. You've watched the series.
Yeah.
Even the psychologist. You know, I mean, she's supposed to be an expert in dealing with teenage issues. And I mean, even her reaction, you know, like she's scared, she's panicking. I mean, do you have the tools or don't you have the tools? Everything from the moment, I mean, the opening, you know, it's like very dramatic and very intense. So you're taken aback and little by little, you know, it falls into, like I told you, the cliche. You know, it's so intellectually
Dim. Not dim, just lazy.
lazy, and it has a purpose. It has a certain purpose. So I'm
Well, if
not
it was to get them into Parliament and to push it and to push and drive this narrative into every school, well, that's
exactly. And I
success.
see the promotion, the promotion of this series. I've never seen a series with such a promotion. It's all over social network. You need to watch it. It's the must. Even in France, I mean, if it's Vogue, Elle, take all the media. Okay, so there is an intent there, and I'm not saying, I'm not in that debate. There is two extreme, the Andrew Tate and that, and the feminization of our boys, because let's call it how it is. They want
It's
to
a
turn them into,
subservience to women.
yeah, because if a guy is a joke, or if a guy is an athlete, or if a guy is like manly, then he's a problem. It's like they brush it with such lazy colors, and it's unfair. I mean, that boy, the story is very, very simple. That boy, like that girl, okay, they bullied him, they made fun of him. I'm not going to condone his reaction to kill somebody, but it has nothing to do from where he comes from his social background, from his family, and they're trying to indict the parents. You see it. They're looking to indict, because I don't remember, I don't know if you remember the question they asked him about his dad. They're going after the father, they're going after the male figure, and the female, okay, is this woman that has no say. She's a housewife. I mean,
And can I put a pause on that? Let's reflect on which communities in Britain right now that scenario truly reflects. Because I can probably bet it's not a working class white British English family where the
exactly.
wife is subservient, she's unawares, the husband's this
Yeah.
toxic male. We all know which
And the
communities
one,
that dynamic exists in, but
exactly.
we're never going to create a drama about it.
Is your father angry? Is your dad angry
Yeah.
at your mom?
Yeah. Does he
And
beat him? Yeah.
every couple, and in every relationship, in every, there is a dynamic,
Of course.
even with a roommate, you have outbursts and angers, and why did you clean that, where did you put that, whatever. But that's not there. It's like, who are you? I want to go in your house one day, to the psychologist and the cops and everything. I would love, to be a fly in your home, to see how perfect you all are. But anyway, like you said, I mean, they're pretending. They say that they've written this series before the Southport events.
It's entirely possible. That is entirely possible. I'm not denying that that might not be true.
And I want to believe them. And I want to believe them. Still. Okay. The goal was there, and there's so many issues. Like, I've listened to a girl, a British girl, she's dressed with a hoodie and like with the sweatpants, and she says, look how I'm dressed. I'm not revealing anything. I'm not like,
Yeah.
and the moment I step out of my home, I'm being watched, harassed, followed. That they will never do a series on that.
No.
They will
Well,
never, they will never write anything about these young girls, these young British girls who cannot walk in many, 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 and every day it's another neighborhood and another one. They cannot walk with a mini skirt. Okay.
but you can't walk, but she wasn't even in a miniskirt. You can't
No, no,
even
no,
walk in your
no, but
track pants.
exactly. But can you imagine the one that wants to walk with a mini skirt because I mean, how come?
Well,
I
it's the
mean,
same in Paris. I remember we're talking at least 10 years ago when I watched girls walk into a cafe full of men of a certain background. And they said, you can't be in here, but it's France. And he said, out here, this is not France. This is not Paris here. You're not welcome here. And kicked the girls out. They were on a YouTube video and they were saying, this is happening right now in our streets. This is Paris. And they said straight to the camera, this is not Paris here. In other words, we have our rules here and you're not welcome.
exactly.
But of course, they'll never do a movie on that. Just like they'll never do a movie on the London bombers. They'll never do a movie on what happened in Manchester. They'll never do a movie on honor killings in the Britain. They'll never do these movies. The Swedes tackled them. I've watched a couple of films they tried to tackle. I mean, one of the first times I ever heard of an honor killing, I didn't even know about this. This is how naive I am. This is how unexposed I was growing up in Australia. Never heard of it until I watched a Swedish film about a Turkish family in Sweden where the parents and the mother tried to kill their daughter because she was having a relationship with a Swede. I never even knew about it, Linda. I'm an educated woman from Melbourne, and I had never heard of the phrase honor killing until I was at least 20 when I watched a film about it. Anyway, that's
It's a daily
apparently
occurrence in every Western country, because they are terrorized to be called Islamophobic, you know.
Linda. Every single mayor in every city
and
is a
and
Muslim.
and you know, this series pretends to tackle the manosphere, and you know, the
Toxic masculinity.
masculine toxicity. I mean, did you see the boy? No, please, did you see this boy? I mean, if I have to describe to this, if I would choose to describe toxic masculinity, is it would be the last one I would take as an example, because this is about bullying. This is another problem. Okay, this is another issue which has nothing to do, and it's bullying also with the social pressure to be
Conform.
popular, you know,
Hmm.
to be, that's the which goes together usually. But so if they wanted to tackle the toxic masculinity, I mean, it's such a failure, you know. There's so many way. And yeah, like you say, if they want to talk about toxic masculinity, let's take them to certain neighborhoods, okay, where you don't see women, you don't see them because they're covered, okay.
They show a wrist and it's offensive to God, or
Exactly.
men might get excited and they say that as the justification, and you just have to sit there and I mean, every woman that covers will say, I do it for personal reasons. It's between me and God. Okay. And
Okay.
every man that gets asked, it's about how other men will look at you. So it's entirely sexual, always. And then
Exactly.
I wonder, why are these men covering up their 7-year-old daughters? And then I have to wonder, what do you think other men are doing? But this is not the stuff. That's the toxicity that we need to talk about. It won't get talked about. The mass rapes, the gang raping. We won't talk about that. One BBC show, 3 girls, that was it, on a industrial scale mass rape and grooming of young British girls. Not going to touch it. I mean, if you're an educator right now in the Western world, in the English speaking world, everyone's talking about this show and saying you must watch it. It's a real problem. We have to look out for these things. So all they're doing is they're chasing young boys. They're putting them in detention. Detention is a school detention. They are suspending them because they have Andrew Tate, or they follow Andrew Tate, or they say things. And instead of educating these young boys, trying to give them a purpose, trying to redirect that angst and anger in a positive channel, they shut
the
them down.
problem the
They
problem
shut these boys down. They castigate these young boys.
the problem is Andrew Tate is giving these people arguments, and
He's
because
one person.
but he should not be the face of that. That's the problem,
That's
okay.
true, true.
And it's like the abortion debate, you know. It's like an extreme response to another extreme. There's not like a middle where you can have a conversation and a debate with people who are fair-minded and who are experts on the subject.
Because if you did, no one would even be considering Andrew Tate. It wouldn't even be worthy of mentioning his name. It's so discredited and so
Yeah,
ridiculous. The
yeah.
fact that boys are gravitating to that tells you, imagine being a boy right now, and a girl, but let's take being a young boy. You have to be masculine and man. No, you have to be manly, not masculine. You have to be athletic, but not a jock. You can't be you have to be, you have to get the girls, but you have to be sensitive enough to have them. There's no, you have to be a gentleman on the one hand, but then you have to not be. Like they don't know what to do. Do you want,
Exact.
you have to treat girls like an equal, but then they want you to be the gentleman. But then you don't know. And then when you behave that way, oh no, I can look after myself, thanks. And you're like, I can't imagine being a young boy right now. The confusion and the mixed messaging continuously. Like,
Because
what do I need to do?
listen, when you've attacked for decades, okay, and tried to dismantle the patriarchy and everything, Christianity, I mean, Western values in general, you know, the foundation of our societies, there is uh, an overt attempt to reconstruct.
Yeah.
The entertainment industry has been at the forefront of that. I used to watch. It was one of my favorite show, Law and Order. And you have the reruns, and when I watched it again, after a few times, I saw every episode has a political, ideological message. Always look who's the bad guy, who's the good guy. Look, okay. So they do it in a way that's very, very, how do you say the word? That's very under the radar. They don't do it openly, you know. They just little by little the message is going through. So they've tried already to reshape the minds of people. Song, music, movies, TV, news. I mean, everybody's working for the same goal. Okay. And what is the purpose? Because you are yourself a result of what you criticize. Okay. You are yourself. So what is the goal? I mean, is it self-hatred only? Is it an ideological strategy, a strategy of an ideological cause, that really think, I mean, it's not a coincidence. I don't think that any of all of that is a coincidence. There is a will, okay, to blame the West.
Well, it's everything that the West stands for. So if we go back,
They blame us for the past colonizations.
but they'll start with, and they also create the groups that oppose, right? So they'll start with, firstly, the capitalists, the whole, the 1%, we're the 99%, the Occupy Wall Street. It starts with the noble, and then it's always the bad bankers. So anyone who has any money, even if they're self-made people, they've worked hard, they're the enemy. So this is sort of like a sort of a pseudo-socialist type agenda here, right? We have to crush the capitalists. So along comes Antifa to do that, right? Then we have the patriarchy. So it's men that are the problem. Toxic men, believe all women, the pussy hat, Me Too brigade, all of that whole movement. Then we had, then it's the racists, it's white people. So it's capitalists, it's capitalists, it's men, it's white people. And their toxic history of suppression and oppression of minority and coloured and brown, all this language they use, which drives me insane. And of course, we ignore the 21st century slavery that's occurring right in this moment, and the butchery and the slavery and the exploitation and extortion of people. But it doesn't matter because they're black and Africans. And actually, everyone is really just a closet racist, because that's what you must be.
Exactly.
If you have such little regard for the actual slavery happening right now and you keep banging on about a narrative that happened 400 years ago. That's that. Then we get to, what's the current enemy now? I don't even know who the enemy is. It's Musk, the Tesla brigade. I mean,
No,
what are we
but
now? It's people in general. Environmentalists are coming out, gluing themselves, and being a bunch of morons, destroying cultural artifacts, because now everyone's the enemy. Everyone who's a living, breathing human being is now the enemy, because we are
because
we
you
consume
say,
meat and
okay,
we breed and
when
we
you say
breathe out air.
first it was capitalism,
Yeah.
okay? So
Yeah.
they cared for the working class, right?
Yeah.
That's what they told us for for the no, and now they're going after that working class. I mean, that's whom they're going after.
Because it's all spiraling sort of arguments.
They look down at them. They have absolute contempt for them. Your father goes to the pub and he likes soccer, football.
But why?
That's it.
Why is there a contempt for this? I'm going to use the word loosely. Traditional British white male, working class. Why is there such contempt for this individual? What is it that they represent that's so reprehensible to the people at BBC and all these whatsits that are writing these lovely Netflix narratives?
Why do you think?
No, I'm asking you, like, what do you think? What is it that they represent? Well, one, they have a pride in their nation, and you're not allowed to do that. Because if you have a pride in your nation, your culture, then you will want to preserve it. And in order to preserve it, you have to destroy or eliminate the threat to it. And that is everything else we know, that you have to. And that's what they associate those two with. That If you're white and working class and male, you must be a racist, you must be a homophobe, you must be a Islamophobe, you must beat your wife up and hate women and a misogynist. I mean, all these labels attached to one poor individual.
Yeah.
Why? Why are they the scapegoat? Why is watching sports at a pub considered such a hostile act of subversion these days? You know, but because he was in a cooking class with his wife, that wouldn't be considered subversive. But he's at a pub with his male friends watching football, and that is a subversive act in modern day Britain today. And well, did you hear the latest yesterday? That they've announced that white men will get a longer sentence
Yeah,
now
yeah,
than
yeah.
minorities.
But
I
that
mean, openly saying it now. You're openly declaring war on your own male population.
yeah, but I've heard it a few weeks ago already that the sentences will be according
Cultural background.
to the social background and the ethnicity, the
I mean, how is that
ethnicity.
allowed? That's
Because
unconstitutional.
if you're brown and you commit a crime, we can't really blame you because I mean all
You
these
didn't know
centuries of
better.
oppression, all
You
these
didn't know that
centuries of
drinking alcohol
oppression.
makes you drunk,
It,
and you didn't know that when you drink alcohol and get drunk and you bash someone up and then rape them, you didn't know that that was bad.
yeah.
I mean, and in fairness, how do they allow this to slip by? And worse, got the stupid masses focusing on that one Netflix drama and not looking at what's happening in front of their face.
No, for me,
Right in front of your face.
no, but
Did you see the WhatsApp family? The WhatsApp, there was parents who were talking disparagingly about the school on WhatsApp, and the
yeah,
police came to their house
yeah, yeah.
for having a conversation, for
On,
causing hurt and harm. It
yeah.
was a private WhatsApp conversation. This is a
Listen,
police state. This is a police state. There's no Britain anymore. Gone.
but listen, this is not. It didn't just happen.
Of course not.
It didn't just happen. They've been planting the seeds for decades. And now we see the result. Okay. We
The
see the
results are
fruit
coming like a tsunami, Linda,
like a
so
tsunami.
quickly.
It's like, okay, they went after Christianity since the 60s. And okay, you want to go, you think that Christianity has blood on its hands, Islam, but you won't touch Islam, which is today the most repressive religion, homophobic, misogynistic. I mean, it's not like there was no reform there. Okay, there
They
was
haven't had an
no
enlightenment, none of them.
evolution with our times. Okay, women in Muslim countries are second class citizens. Okay, that doesn't bother you. So don't tell me that you care for women. I don't believe you. Don't you dare talk about slavery when slavery is legal and practiced in many Muslim countries. Don't
And
even
African countries.
dare. But because they see it as a minority and minority have they got the joker
They've
card.
got
They got the
absolution.
joker card, you know. It's okay, absolution, absolutely, exactly. But the thing is that why they're going after the working class, like you say, the white working class, because they are the one who are still proud of their nations, of their history, of their country, of their nation, and that cannot be. We need to, because we cannot achieve our final goal if these people are still standing up. We need to crush them. So we're going to look at little things that are not a real threat, the real threat to our existence, to our
Mm,
existence.
mm.
We're going to look at this little boy who's like a little boy who liked this girl. She didn't like him. She made fun of him on social network and he committed a horrible act. Okay. A horrible act. But it has nothing to do with the subject that they really want to attack. Absolutely nothing to do. And anyone who's fair minded watching this series, I mean, I've read comments. We're not the only one who have absolutely, I mean, some comment says, can we, you know, when you talk about the number of knife attacks, can you give us the ethnicity of the perpetrators and the victims? Can we, the age, the social economy? Can we go deep? Can we dive deep into the real issue? No, they don't. Okay, they don't. So that's what they do. That's what it's I'm really scared because kids today don't read. They don't get their outside of TikTok and Netflix and all of this. And they are trying to really, 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 really brainwash the future,
Mhm.
our future. And that's what scares me more than anything.
But what scares me more is that there's such little critical thinking. Like, how do you, in a climate where you have, I mean, look at the US.
Yeah.
The idea that it's always the guns that kill people, right? So it's the guns that are shooting up schools, not the bullied teenager who's on every medication you can think of. Every single shooter in the US was on some type of medication, whether it's Adderall, whether it's some sort of antidepressant medication that wasn't connecting well. I mean, if you can only think of the side
Ritalin.
effects, all sorts of side effects of these medications that they will not talk about. They will not talk about, but it's the gun that's the problem. So in the British situation, again, now it's Andrew Tate. It's the internet. So we have to shut down the internet. Do you not see? This is a pathway to shutting down the internet. They're going to control it. They are trying to say that they're trying to shut down freedom of speech because it's hate speech. It's this speech. And now with this series, it's a classic case of they're trying to manipulate and control the flow of information. So what's the end goal? They want to shut down the internet. It was a good experiment while it lasted, but it gave people too much access to information. And you cannot have that. So right now, let's not correct where society has broken down, because the social values, the mores, society has completely broken down, leaving young kids atomized, lonely, alone, unable to connect with anyone and anything. They have no purpose. They have no church. They have no culture. They can't even be proud of their culture and their history. They're told that their history sucks, their ethnicity sucks, their oppressors, the very color of their skin is a cause of oppression to someone else, their gender or the fact that they are male. What more? How are they supposed to navigate this space? So naturally, they're going to try and find somewhere to fit in. And the internet gives them that
They
outlet.
went as far as to deny genders.
I mean, they didn't deny genders. What they've done is they've decided, a bit like natural immunity during COVID, they just redefined the term.
They redefined.
Redefine gender now is a spectrum. Gender is a social construct. It's not associated with a birth sex, that you're biological sex. Since when?
Yeah, yeah.
Since some moronic academic, and I know this is going to get hate, and I really don't care. Some academics planted there by who knows what to create another social narrative. Here's some funding, create some bullshit argument, and here you go. Channel it out to the masses. Let's sell it. And if off it goes, I've never seen more confused children today, because none of them even know. I mean, once upon a time, if you were a more gentler male, that's who you were. You were called a gentleman. That didn't associate with you being gay or trans. Didn't matter. You were just a gentler boy than some other boys. I've taught in a boys' school. There is a spectrum of masculinity, just like there's a
Exactly,
spectrum of
exactly.
femininity.
But there were
Just because
always.
a girl likes playing football does not make her a lesbian. It does not make her a male. She's just a
But the thing,
different type of girl.
we
We have,
always had. I mean, when I was in school, we had the shy boys, and we had the boys that were more.
but you also had girls who were also a little bit more tomboyish. We used to
Yeah,
call them tomboys. Okay, didn't mean I'm not a girl.
but
It also didn't mean I was a lesbian
everything
girl. It
is
just meant I'm a different kind of girl.
because today everything must be labeled.
No, because you can control that way. You can
Exactly.
confuse and control. And the best way to take control is to create utter chaos. So I believe that an orchestrated plan to, as you said, deconstruct society so they can, whoever they is, I'm always going to say, I use this they loosely, but whatever they are, so they can reconstruct society the way they want. Technocratic overlords wanting
You
cheap,
know,
easy masses that just do what they're told, confused masses.
and my question always, I come back to the same question. What is the end goal?
I don't know.
It's like.
You know what I think about the end goal, but
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
sure. I
yeah,
haven't evidenced.
yeah. But it's like that's what I'm battling with. Really, I'm struggling with is what is the end goal? Because we see the absurdity, but an absurdity that puts all of us in danger. If it's absurdity that I'm not gonna get hurt by
Mm-mm.
you're doing all this crazy, insane policies and everything and pushing this agenda and everything. If it doesn't touch me, but now, yeah, now I feel threatened. My existence, my values, what I believe in, what the society I want to live in is under threat. And these people are absolutely, there's no word. I have no word. It's more than cynical, They are dangerous. They
It's
are enemies of humanity. I'm going to go that far. Okay, I think they hate humanity. It's impossible because all what they want to do is really destroy it. I've to return to the Gaza thing. Now we know that Hamas was in touch with as organizations in universities in America before October 7th. No one in the mainstream media is discussing that. No, they don't care. That's how much they hate the world they live in, that they are ready to give weapons. I mean, I'm not talking about, ideological weapons to the people who wanted to destroy them. And I said, are they crazy? It's more than suicidal empathy. I don't even think these people have empathy. I don't
It's
think they
just
are able.
suicidal.
I don't think they are able to have empathy. I really don't. I think they really hate humanity.
I think they're just nihilists. They
Yeah,
just have
exactly.
no
Nihilist.
faith.
Exactly.
But I mean, otherwise, how do you explain Keir Starmer's overtures? Let's just take Macron and Starmer. First of all, what do you think you are doing? Now, I know we've had this conversation before and you're still unconvinced. There's no way Russia would go to war. There's no way they would attack. It's all bluff. They've got the nukes, but they're always a deterrent. But what do Starmer and Macron actually think they're going to do? Get Russia to
I don't get it.
concede? Do you really think the Russians, with their submarines, which Putin now casually just threw out and said, just a reminder that we also have submarines and some of the most advanced intercontinental, where they have the most advanced Mach speed missiles. And I look at them, I just want to know, what do you think you're going to do
No,
with
but
your
and when we
two
talk,
aircraft carriers and your no weapons?
and when you talk like that, people think that you are a
Pro-Russian.
no, no, not even pro-Russia, that you are a pro-Putin. They don't even say pro-Russia. They say, but Putin is corrupt. He's not less corrupt than all the others because I'd like to follow the money for the others. I really would like.
Well, we already have.
Anytime.
Let's follow. Just explain to me how AOC has amassed $29 million worth of personal wealth. The
Exactly.
bartender from wherever she's from, Brooklyn, Bronx. I don't even know where she's from. I don't even care.
Yeah, a barrister.
But yeah, no, that doesn't happen.
No, no,
That's
that doesn't.
totally legit money.
So,
Legit.
okay. So they think that when we say, what the fuck? I mean, I'm sorry, what the fuck? You don't have money for the farmers. You don't have money for the retirees who are starving in France. Starving, I'm talking starving, who are looking into garbage cans to eat. So you have no money for that. But I mean, suddenly billions are coming out of your pockets because we are under an existential threat. The existential threat doesn't come from Russia. You know it very well. But you cannot go after your sponsors, the guy that give you. No, because I'm telling you, if you follow the money, Qatar has all of our politicians in their pockets, because there's no way that the country that sponsors the rise of Islamism in the West, we know it's Qatar. Okay, you have no problem rolling out the red carpet for their leaders. Who do you think who brokered all of these deals? No, who brokered all of these deals when
Mm.
Qatar bought, I don't know how many percentage of Heathrow Airport they have, and this and this. Even in France, who brokered all these deals? Okay, so when you talk about corruption, please, your hands are not white. But the thing is, so okay, he's an authoritarian. Okay, Putin is an authoritarian. He doesn't even pretend not to be. No, he never pretended not to be. He never pretended that he's not corrupt either. No, he never. He never shows himself. Okay, he attacked Ukraine. I don't condone that. I don't condone the bombing and
See,
everything.
I don't necessarily
Okay,
have.
but but to make Zelensky also as this kind of hero, we know the corruption in Ukraine. It's like
But I think,
please.
Linda, let's face it, the Europeans are screwed. If you're talking about, I mean, and we have to, I think people are just getting, it's convenient because they form a narrative that gets you sucked into a little emotional game of poor Ukraine or bad Russia or our threat. Realistically, this is a game of chess. We're in a power politic game. This
Yes,
is realpolitik. We know exactly what the US is doing, driving a wedge between Russia and China, trying to. What's the US doing? They're trying to scupper as much resources as they can to rebuild so they can knock off their trillions of debt and rebuild and become again what Trump promised he wanted. That's what he wants.
the
He
debt.
knows the US has economically withered away. It is not the powerhouse it once was. Okay. And they know it. So this whole, Ukraine, what is it called? Resource deal. It's basically, you're going to let me extort and get every resource out of you, and that's how it's going to be, Zelensky, or else.
Yeah,
And he's
it's
put,
only
it's,
that.
it's
Exactly.
clear.
It's
It's
not
clear.
a
But
question of land
the
or
Europeans now need to shut up and sit there. I mean, the fact that the Europeans now are going to get into Germany, 1 trillion plus euros debt to start building up a war economy. And who are you going to fight, Germany? Without Ramstein, without the American bases, without all this, who the hell are you going to fight? Do you get what I mean? The Europeans have this, and this is where I have to empathize with some of the Americans. Because Europeans for a long time sit there bragging about their welfare states and bragging about their, the state, the healthcare and public healthcare and universities and blah, 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 blah. Because the US that funds NATO was protecting you. Now that they've pulled out and you have to, divert your cash towards defense, you're going to realize you have very little left to do anything with. But in order to convince the starving pensioners and the moronic idiots in our countries why this is necessary, they have to do this threat of Russia to justify kicking off the economy towards a war economy so they can justify diverting cash away from health, education, security, safety, policing, whatever else. And things are going to get much worse in Europe. But the question I have to ask is, what is the end game? Did the Europeans think that Ukraine was going to join the EU and that the Europeans were going to get their hands on all of Ukraine's assets? I have a feeling that's what they wanted,
like
right?
Russia. But Russia
That's what they
also.
wanted. EU is not NATO. EU was never off the cards, right? Having, we've got Armenia ready to join the EU. Georgia's had a bit of trouble there, obviously, but it was never NATO was off the cards. EU, different story. It's a trading arrangement, right? Now, of course, the Russians probably wouldn't like that either because it obviously minimizes their access to markets and whatnot. But end of the day, you don't want the Ukraine supplying the Europeans when the Russians were supplying the Europeans. Obviously, the Russians want to keep that market for themselves.
Everybody's
But
fighting for his own interests.
it's what it is. That's what it is. And so don't sit there and talk to me about Ukraine. No, I don't care. I don't care. I do know there are Russian speakers in Ukraine who have been, got the neo-Nazis literally down there harassing them. I mean, no one talks about the fact that in the Ukrainian parliament from, 20, they basically outlawed Russian. They outlawed it, put it by law not to speak Russian. You could not converse in it. This is outright discrimination against those speakers.
But
But
now
no one talks
Putin,
about that. No
yeah,
one
but
talks about that.
Putin,
That's not human right
but
abuse.
Putin,
That's,
Putin, Putin is doing the same lately with. He
yeah,
said that if they don't, I mean the territories that
the
he
Donbass, the southern
yeah, the
areas. Yeah.
Donbass, that if they don't choose the Russian nationality, then they will be expelled.
Yeah.
He just decided.
Yeah. Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah. It's an
listen.
ethnic cleansing of sorts. It's an ethnic cleansing and capture, but it's only designed
there
for,
is a whole realignment. You
yeah. I think that everyone is trying to get their dirty hands on resources.
That's all it is. But people, they don't want to talk about the reality because the reality is not conformed to their.
Of course not. But what about the reality that we're heading towards a post-industrial age? Europe is
Oh my God.
deindustrializing as we speak.
No, no, no. But no, I read something the other day. You know how many jobs are going to be lost? And I was thinking about you because they said even teachers
I'll be the first to go.
with AI. Can you believe with AI already the education system is at the forefront of the brainwashing. Uh,
It's very, very
can,
frightening and how fast it's happened.
can you believe when it will be AI?
Linda, it will be no more than 5 years. In 2 years since ChatGPT has been around, 2 years, it has transformed how kids do their work, how teachers teach. It has transformed everything to the point where slowly, slowly there's AI tutors and we are encouraged to use them in our class, to get the students working on their own on these AI tutors. And I'm thinking, well, what am I here to do? So in 5 years, when this technology just exponentially grows like this, totally out of a job. And much worse because there will be no face-to-face communication. There'll be students, already kids don't understand social mores and cues. They struggle. Everything's two-dimensional on a screen. It's very worrying. Going back to, we're in a post-industrial age. We're heading towards the age of AI. Europe is nowhere near ready for it, and they know it. They know it. That's why they need a war economy. They're justifying a war economy to start pumping cash into digitalization, into whatever electronic warfare, whatever it is, and hooking up the system that they're going to need to be able to compete with the world in the next 10 years. Europe is so far behind. Why do you think the Americans are so aggressive with what they're doing right now? Tariff here, tariff there, tariff here, tariff there. Now, I heard an argument that this is all very deliberate to try and distort the markets and confuse them. Because if you keep putting tariff here, well, we're just going to put more tariffs and more tariffs. If you confuse the market, then it starts to crash. And what we're heading towards is a restructuring of our financial system. But they can't tell us they're doing that. They can't take our money away from us. We need a catastrophe or an absolute, a crash of something so significant for them to justify then tokenizing our incomes. That's what they're doing. So if you want to know what is really going on, they're going to crash the economies. They're going to move us to a digital currency. They're already doing it in Europe. Von der Leyen's October, it's coming in, voluntary. Eventually, we're going to move to a token system, unlike Bitcoin and those, crypto coins. We're going to have coins. And here's the worst bit: they're programmable, as we all know. They're programmable. Yep, time limit. There'll be an expiry date. They will decide what you're allowed to spend it on, and you will never accrue any wealth.
After a while, it won't be worth anything.
Well, not only that, but you won't even be able to save it. So we will no longer be able to have wealth accumulation.
Exactly. How do you build wealth?
You can't. You will never build wealth. So as I said, Klaus Schwab, you will own nothing and you'll be happy, apparently.
Listen, I'm not worried for me because I'm at an age that I'm not worried, but I'm worried.
No, you should, because things are moving very rapidly. We're not talking too far in the distant future. We're talking in 5 years.
No, but I'm really scared for the kids. You have daughters.
I do.
And I don't have children. I would be a parent. I would be really, really worried. I don't know what
get them to use
solution. But when you're talking about the tariff, because I was speaking about it with my sister, because she said that
America, to US,
it's gonna hurt a lot of businesses within the US.
Yeah,
like people who are manufacturing in China, importers and everything. But I said, well, but he's doing what he has to do for his country. And I said, and every leader should be doing the same. Every leader should be concerned by his people, not by the rest of the world, but by his own people.
But he also threatened his own companies. He said, you know what, here's what's going to happen. You will reshore. If you're an American company and you're operating in China or Canada, or I don't care where else in the world, I'm going to make your life a misery until you bring your business back to the United States.
And they're doing it.
And you start hiring Americans. It is a bit of a knife at the throat approach, but we know that this is what he's trying to rebuild the United States, not just as a physical power, but as an economic power.
Yeah, but they're doing it because I've read a lot of companies like Ford and in the automotive industry, which was like a major industry in America, and they are rebuilding manufacturing sites in America, which is listen, the people voted for him for that. That many people, I'm talking about the working class people, that's why they voted for Trump. He's doing what he promised them to do. And I know in the world of politics, it's not usual. Usually they make a lot of promises and then they forget you for 4 years. I mean, the Democratic Party is in shambles, and I think it's going to take him decades and decades and decades to recover, because right now it's been hijacked by its radical wing, lunatics, crazy people, corrupt lunatics, who pretend to care for me or for us. They don't care. They care for their own pockets. They are the most corrupt. Usually, these people are the most corrupt, usually. And I wanted to touch down on the Tesla subject.
Ridiculous.
These people that are burning and killing and damaging and attacking Tesla owners, they are attacking people. Not only the car itself, but they are the same people who were burning the cities during BLM. They are the same people where, the Antifa crowd, they are the same. These people are paid. Yes. They're paid. Yes. They're not crusaders for social justice,
That's why Musk was asking, who's funding him? I want to know.
And that's exactly, it's good that they are.
I think I know who he suspects too.
Me too. But okay, arrest the lunatics, arrest them. And did you see them? Did you see a lot of them are trans activists also? It's the same. It's the same group, they recycle. Every day it's another thing. Yesterday they were the one who were burning everything because we had to protect the environment.
Yeah,
So they were
exactly.
burning to protect the environment. Okay. Today they're burning the cars that they were wanting to make it a mandate. They didn't tell you, okay, you can have a choice between EV or
Regular
a
combustion.
regular exactly car. No. You had to have an EV. If not, you were the enemy of planet Earth.
Yeah, so if you were driving around your big
So
giant Bronco, you were the enemy.
you know that they don't believe a thing that they say. At the end of the day, you know that they don't believe a thing that they say, and it's like a parody. Like
It
you
is.
saw when we were exchanging, you tell me it's a SNL skit. Really, it's
It
an
is.
SNL skit. They are caricatures of themselves. But and I say, and I am, don't arrest them. Okay, arrest the crazy nutcases that these people are using. They're using people who are mentally unwell. Okay, it's abuse somewhere. No, I want you to go after the people who are putting the money out there.
Who do you suspect? Starts with S?
I have
I think Musk suspects the big man starting with S.
Soros for sure is there. He's not the only one. No. I don't think he's the only one. I think there is even foreign entities who are in
Yeah.
it.
I think it's all about controlled, sort of, again, it's about confusion.
No, because
It's the next iteration of the same group. I told you we went from Antifa to the Me Too to the BLMs to the Tesla environmental crowd. It just off it goes. I'm waiting for the
chaos,
next one. It's just
chaos
chaos.
and violence, chaos and
Chaos,
violence.
confusion. That's all. Make people confused, either to redirect their funds. I mean, who's actually not going to buy a Tesla if they wanted to buy one? I mean, really? And what are you going to buy instead? A different EV, a Chinese one? Will that be better?
Yeah, but
Buy a
that's
BYD? Is that the whole
yeah,
point?
yeah.
Maybe that is the point.
Do you think that China is not happy to see Tesla being burned all over? For sure, they're happy, and it would never happen in China. I can tell you that. Okay, but even a Tesla, they wouldn't burn a Tesla in China.
No, no.
Okay, but the thing is that chaos, violence is the natural environment for these crazy lunatics. That's their raison de vivre. They wake up in the morning, but
It's
that's
chaos.
not
It's
ugly. But the thing is, okay, who's funding? Who's funding the protest in the university, the pro-Palestinian? Because all of those also been arrested to burn and put the swastikas were also pro-Palestinian protesters. They are the same crowd. So all of these activists on TikTok,
they're paid.
on campus,
They're
they
just paid.
all are paid. So follow the money. I thought that follow the money was the motto of the left for many, many, many years. During the Watergate, it was like the big Watergate, slogan, follow the money. Why don't we follow the money today? For everybody. I want to follow the money for AOC, Bernie Sanders, and
If we followed the money, you would collapse that many narratives that people wouldn't be able to cope. If you just follow the money for the whole, let's look at the whole COVID fiasco.
yeah,
Follow the money. Can you, and I just one day, I watch those TikTok videos of the nurses dancing and I think,
COVID.
I'm in a parody of myself. Like, am I watching for, and that really happened. But if you follow the money for that, follow the funding that the pharmaceutical companies support, and you still will get these people that are unwilling and incapable of critically thinking and going, maybe that research is compromised. Maybe that drug is compromised. Maybe that politician is compromised. No, no, no. It's
Greed.
extremist views, extremists,
My sister is right.
conspiracy theorists.
My sister is right. Greed will destroy the West. Greed.
I think apathy will destroy the
Yeah,
West.
but
Apathy.
apathy and greed. Because the thing of COVID, because today I see a lot of people posting, that we couldn't sit on a bench. We couldn't go in a park. We couldn't
Kids
walk.
locked up
We
in their
couldn't
rooms,
walk.
kids locked
We
indoors.
couldn't walk along the water on the beach. We couldn't walk
Well, you
because
couldn't get
they told
natural
us,
sunlight and fresh air. I mean,
yeah,
that might actually kill you.
because they
Cure,
told us
C-U-R-E.
for years they were telling us that we need to be in connection with the nature, and suddenly the nature became our enemy. No. It's like they're all over that's why I tell you, they're
The
all
biggest
over.
psyop, one
It,
of the biggest psyops was the whole COVID fiasco. And to this day, even people who bought it 3 years ago are cynical now and go, what the hell was that?
yeah,
What was that? How did we allow ourselves to so easily
but because
just be,
now because you see how they did it.
yeah, through intense
Sophie,
propaganda?
Sophie, I was watching TV, the news here. Okay, my parents are old people. First, my mother is in the state that she is today. If I can date it, if I can put you a date, okay, and tell you when did my mother cognitive
Deteriorating.
decline started, I'm telling you, it's at this
Mm.
moment. And I remember one day I was washing my mom in the shower. I was washing her back, and she started to cry. It was during the first days of COVID. And I said, Mom, why are you crying? I'm so scared to die. All day long on TV, all day long on TV, all day long. Not a news time like before. At 8 o'clock, it was like everybody had to be in front of their TV at 8 o'clock because they were going to tell us how many people died.
Yeah.
Okay. But not
The
only how many,
case
no.
numbers going up, case
And
numbers.
it's not only how many people died in France because that information was not bad enough. We had to know how many people died in Spain, in Italy, in Greece, in everywhere. We need to know the amount of people who are dying. And I remember the images. I will never forget these images of how do you call them? You know the cars where they put the my God, the coffins.
Yeah, like a hearse.
Yeah, in Italy, and you would see like a parade of them, like hundreds of these cars. And I was telling my dad the other day, or my brother, I was telling my brother the other day, I said, but Daniel, we all fell for it. We all fell for it. So he told me, yeah, but people were dying. I said, yeah.
What though? Of what? We have to ask what of.
And he told me, yeah, but most people who were dying were people who had some morbidity, like pathologies. It's not like everybody. But me, I did one thing. I say, okay, I'm
Can I
going to,
say also, I'm going to pause.
yeah,
It wasn't just comorbidities. They were actively murdered in hospitals. And I will say murdered because if you look at the stories coming out of the UK with the use of midazolam, is that what it's called? Midazolam? And so basically one was a respiratory suppressant. And then they were on ventilators and the ventilators blew out their lungs. And they would deliberately put people, and they used to say, whatever you do, however sick you get, do not go to a hospital. They will put you on a vent and it will kill you. It wasn't just the comorbidity. That probably is what got people sick enough to get to hospital. But what killed them was the treatment. And we need to call that for what it is. And I don't care what people think of
but
me. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
we need to call out two things.
Yeah.
There's always, when there are flu epidemic, there is always people who are dying. Is me, I said, I wanted to do some research. And I said, okay, how many people are dying? And I wanted to see how many people are dying every day.
In general.
Not in general, how many hospitals there is in France and how many daily death there are. I said, okay, let me compute all of that. No, because we don't hear how many people are dying every day. Today, you don't hear how many people are dying every day in hospitals. And it was almost the same number. And I want to tell you something. First, like you said, the ventilators killed a lot of people. Also, people were dying of other things and they had COVID. Okay.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
they had COVID, but they died of
28 days.
heart attack.
The UK, they had a 28-day limit. So if you had if you died within 28 days of a positive COVID test, irrespective of the actual cause of death, it was recorded COVID.
COVID.
So gunshot, car accident, heart attack, doesn't matter. Did you test positive for COVID within those 28 days? And most would have got the test, when they're in hospital. So they would have been ill or injured or from a car accident. They come into hospital. Within a week, they do a COVID test. They have COVID. And if in that time they died of COVID, not the car
But tell
accident,
me
not
something.
their injuries,
But
not the gunshot wound,
what about the
COVID.
doctors and the nurses?
Liars. Paid. They got paid for every COVID death. So
No,
it was
no,
in
I'm
their
talking about the doctors that died. I mean, but my dad doctor didn't answer the phone for, for like 2, 3 weeks. And I said, Dad, maybe
Maybe
he
he's got
died,
COVID.
maybe he passed away. And he says, no, what are you talking about? And then we heard that he passed away, but he refused to go to a hospital. He was a doctor. He died.
Yes, but what did he?
He died. He died in his home because he knew that if he died in a hospital, his family wouldn't be able to
See him.
see him. So he
How
chose to
tragic is
die.
that alone? And so he didn't get treated. He stayed at home and got worse, I
Yeah,
assume.
yeah,
And again, we don't know what comorbidities the man had, whether he had high blood
yeah,
pressure or did he have
yeah,
vitamin
yeah.
D deficiency. Apparently, everyone in Europe's vitamin D deficient. Everyone.
Because I told my brother, I said, okay, Papa got it, Mommy got it, I got it, you got it. We didn't die. We didn't
So
die.
that should have been your first call going, I think we're good.
We didn't die. Okay. And also, I remember these doctors, I think they were from LA. I'm not sure, so I don't want to be sure. But then they were censored. So the video disappeared from YouTube. I think it was UCLA. I'm not sure. So don't, that came and they said that they had to sign on the death certificate
COVID.
that it was COVID.
Money.
And you
The
know why?
hospital gets money.
Because hospitals were getting paid per death of COVID.
You know, I was hearing stories coming out. This is why I was
No,
very
but it's like,
suspicious.
hello.
If you had the internet and you knew where to look, I started hearing stories coming out of Greece where people were saying the hospitals are the new concentration camps, the new gas chambers. Do not go in there. Anyone who goes in there does not come back out alive. The stuff I was hearing during COVID made me so terrified to go anywhere. And what it has done, it has broken down my trust in the medical system, in doctors, in the healthcare system, in hospitals. I have no faith. Even now, I get anxiety when I have to go to the doctor. And if I have to go, it's because I probably need to get some antibiotics because you can only get antibiotics from a GP. I have such anxiety going in there. I see people in masks. I get panic. I don't want to be near them. And there's a social contract between doctor and patient. I know that you are doing first do no harm, no harm.
And also the thing that for me the proof in the pudding, it's like the debate. If there's no debate in science, there's no science.
Now the science was settled. Don't you know the science is settled?
And the fact that they tried to destroy
Debate.
the lives and the careers of eminent scientists. I'm talking about Professor Raoul, what they did to Professor Raoul, they should be ashamed of themselves. These men saved so many lives, and even Professor Montagnier. You know what? I mean, they called him senile. The man is a Nobel Prize, has a Nobel Prize.
What about the whole Great Barrington Declaration? All those doctors, all those scientists that signed on to it. You have eminent physicians, epidemiologists from Harvard, from Stanford, Ioannidis, what's his name? There's so many well-renowned people. I mean, you couldn't even say that it was leaked out of Wuhan until last year.
Exactly.
So every single person that said that in 2020 and 2021 was castigated, shut off, deplatformed, shunned, cancelled, had their careers destroyed because they said the very thing that we all now agree was true.
It's all linked. The Adolescence, Tesla, the COVID thing. It's all because it's the same characters that are pulling the strings. So it's all linked.
Exactly. I agree.
But anyway, me, what I'm concerned about regarding COVID, the aftermath, okay? Because now I'm reading, and I don't think these people are crazy. I'm reading that there are some scientists are linking some forms of cancer to the vaccines. I don't know if it's true or not, but there's something to look at.
There is many eminent doctors, physicians, scientists who are pointing to this
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah.
But they will call them crazy, conspiracy theorists, not enough evidence. Evidence is debunked. You know, they'll throw these narratives out there because people don't want to look at, I mean, I've got people who are science teachers and biology teachers, and they are
Yeah.
not even willing to examine. And this is the problem in science. Science, if you treat science like a religion, a dogma based on
Exactly.
faith,
A dogma.
we are no longer talking about science, the
Right.
scientific essence or the methodology, which is about constant questioning. You question the
Listen,
question and question again and again. You do
Personally,
not.
going deep into the subject, if I just have to take it on a personal level, when I look at my mom, and maybe somebody will tell me that it's not connected, that it's her age or a certain pathology or whatever. I can tell you, I personally, because I'm here every day with her, and I can tell you that I can connect it to that period. My
Well, Lynn,
mom, my mom aged 20 years. My mother was filled with energy, and even at her age, she was like, she looked young and
vibrant.
vibrant and everything. And then I asked a few friends of mine whose parents suddenly became Alzheimer's, senile, dementia. And I promise you, I'm not crazy, Sophie.
I believe you.
Around the same time, the isolation, the fear that they put these people
That
through.
alone, those two things alone, can set a cascade of physiological changes. Just those two. Forget everything. Just the fact that they were so terrified. Imagine the adrenal, cortisol, exhaustion, and rush that these people
And not
had
only
in
that,
their bodies just from the fear.
and they were telling them, old people, all terrible, the old people, the old people, the old people, and the people who were obese and whatever, whatever, old people, old people. And my parents were, how they were like, my mother, not really, she didn't really care about the vaccines or not, to tell you the truth. She's not that, but my dad, okay, because they started by, vaccinating, by age groups, they were, and then the children and me, I was telling my friends, please do not inject your children. I said, because we don't know in 20 years what the,
What
the,
it
the
will be.
side effects will be. And I mean, who knows, if they're gonna, I mean, if they're, I don't know, they can breed children who are, I don't know, God forbid. But, and most of my friends did not give,
That was we've had this conversation with my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law. We're in America. They've got young kids. We all said the hill we die on is our kids. Nope. That will be the hill I die on. That you force me to do that to my children, that's the end game for me. That's the hill I will die on. You will not make me do this to my child or expose. But at the end of the day, Linda, we're exposed to so many toxins, so much we're bombarded left, right, and center. So at the end of the day, you can try and self-preserve as much as you can, but at the end of the day, I don't know, just keep your wits about you. Try and be as healthy as you can. And one thing I never believed in was the COVID thing, the vaccine. I was never going to take it. I was never going to take it because my brain said, something said, it's too soon. You cannot, first of all, it's not that deadly. The minute you realize that COVID wasn't that deadly, and then you start seeing statistics like, 99%, survival rate, and your rate of death was like 0.001 if you were over 40. And I'm like, well, that's I'll take those odds. So for me, once you realize that people weren't dropping dead in the street, right? Once you realize that the risk for me, there was a cost. There's always a cost risk, right? I was not willing to take the risk for the lower risk of catching COVID and something negative happening to me. I wasn't going to. And then, of course, slowly we start hearing stories about what's in them, what's the side effect, what's coming out more and more. But yeah. So for me,
nobody,
I don't know
nobody,
what the trigger was for me. I don't know.
you're
It was
right.
actually, I know what it was. I think it was a conversation I had with a science teacher at my school. And this is in 2020. We came back to school and they said, oh, hopefully this will be over in a year and we can travel again. And I went, okay, so do I hope. So, if a vaccine comes in, we should be reopened. And I remember thinking, a vaccine comes in, but vaccines take ages to produce. I'm not going to take this. How do I know how safe this is? And then she told me how it was going to work, that your body creates its own, she gave me the whole biological thing that you're not injecting a dead virus like the traditional vaccines. What you're doing is you're sending an mRNA to your cell to produce the toxin yourself, and then your body will kill it itself. And I remember looking at her going, so my body is going to produce the virus itself for my body to attack itself. She goes, yeah, it's really new technology. It's really good. And I went, how is that really good? It's one thing to have a foreign thing coming into you and your body mounts a response to fight and kill it. It's a very different thing when your body mounts a response to kill itself, because you have turned your cell into the very virus that you're trying to kill. For me, scientifically, it did not make sense. And then I was called idiot. I was called all sorts of names, saying, no, it stays in the arm, it doesn't circulate, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, we find all sorts of documentation where it does circulate. Obviously, it doesn't just stay in the arm, it moves around. So basically, wherever that spike protein goes, it'll turn those cells into a mini coronavirus. It'll detoxify them, and the body mounts a response to kill them. And it was supposed to kill them, and that's the end. But what's happening? Your body keeps making spike because it's a messenger RNA in those
And
lipids.
also,
So, but this is the thing, right? So this is when I heard this, I went, who in their right minds, if they know all this stuff, if you didn't know, you didn't know, and you have trust. But for me, once you know this stuff, I'm not a scientist, but I don't need to be. This doesn't sound right to me.
and also the best immunity, it's a natural immunity.
Obviously, yeah, they tried to kill that one too.
And they
Remember
killed
that?
that one. Okay. And that's why people got COVID 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the one that got the 4 shots are the ones who have the COVID nonstop. Even my sister, I told you because we discussed it on another podcast. Even my sister was like, because when I became septic, because at a point I said, when I saw these doctors who were saying that they were forced to sign that the cause of death was COVID and everything. So, and when they attacked Professor Raoult, that's when I started to get really disgusted, because this man is so, it was so unfair what they did to him. And so that when they went after him like that, I said, something is wrong. If they're not able to have a conversation, a discussion, and a debate, then there's something there. Okay. But my sister today, she tells me, Linda, I'm sorry to what I've told you. I said, they let people die alone in their home. They didn't let their children bury them. They separated families. They killed hundreds, thousands of people in old age homes. They killed them. They didn't die of COVID. They were murdered, I said.
Exactly.
And no one is in jail. That Netflix will never touch.
No. But someone might, in about 10 years' time, make a movie about the whole COVID debacle, but you know what angle they will take. It's not going to be the poor Professor X or Professor Y who was cancelled and lost their career and ridiculed. But on that note, do you have a what the fuck?
I have so many what the fuck.
Just one to round off our conversation.
So today I sent you the link, the link on Instagram. There is this man who posted a video of people working in Hollywood who have not been working who are out of jobs because the industry is in a bad shape. And there is this guy who posted, we're a company in the Middle East and we are working and we are looking for production and post-production American to work for us and blah, blah, blah. So as a joke, I said, what is it? Is it the Muslim Brotherhood is in search of some of some
victims?
And I was because I said, who in the Middle East is producing movies? And I said, the only big network in the Middle East is Al Jazeera, So I said, what is it? So the guy says, no, I'm from Saudi Arabia. And
Maybe. Maybe.
He said, and all this thing with the Muslim Brotherhood is propaganda. So I said, sadly, that it's not propaganda. I said they took over academia, media, politics, and now they are going after entertainment. I said the last vessel they have left for. So I said, and you should know it. You're from Saudi Arabia because they're forbidden in your country. I said, the Muslim Brotherhood. It's not propaganda. Because there are, I think that Al Jazeera is banned in Saudi Arabia, if I'm not wrong. Anyway, I received such a barrage of like can die and blah, blah, and free Palestine and all the bullshit because they have no agreement. But I was like, just in the beginning, I was making a joke. I said, oh, the Muslim Brotherhood have decided to go into the movie industry now, as a joke. But this guy, the guy that put that ad, you know, that ad. And no, and not only that, I saw the responses to his ad. He says, "Oh, I have this group on WhatsApp. We're looking for," and everybody, "Oh, thank you. I'm in the music production. I mean, they all are jumping." And it reminded me the monologue. You remember the monologue of what's his name, the Ricky Gervais
Mm,
at
mm.
the Golden Globe,
Yeah.
when he said, if ISIS would start a streaming company, you
We're
would be
jumping.
calling your agents, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
It's exactly what I saw. Exactly. They don't even ask the guy what it is about, what kind of production do you need? No. Yes, yes, I'm available. Contact me. And at the end I said, well, now I understand how Hitler made it. You know, people were willing to, just because they had like, just for their own, you know, little interest. But I mean, I'm not gonna be mad at people who are trying to make a living, you know. I mean, they've got mortgages and families, and the industry is in really bad shape, and they don't even know, because AI is coming, so they don't
Mm,
even know.
mm.
Just to finish, so what the fuck, it was a joke, you know, that these people are humorless. But what is your what the fuck?
As you said, there's several, but for me, I think it has to be and we've sort of talked about it already. It has to be the two tier, the idea that, sorry, I'm going back, the idea that white British men somehow have to have longer sentences than women and minorities in Britain. When, in other words, the whole equality before the law is in the toilet. That
Yeah,
was my one.
yeah, exactly.
In the
They were
UK,
never about.
there is no equality before the law. If you're a white British male, you will be dealt with differently. So the whole two-tier care and two-tier policing, we now have two-tier legal system, not just as a hyperbole or as an exaggeration, but as real, recorded.
You saw that video of the policewoman going to this man's house
Yep.
and tell him that they're here because he posted something on Facebook or whatever. And the man is filming the whole thing. Listen, what is happening in England in general, it's a big what the fuck,
What the fuck?
okay?
That's the WhatsApp group chat too between the parents who
Oh, yeah.
criticise the school. There are people who are genuinely worried that their posts as Americans or Australians, if they land in Britain, could see them potentially be arrested in the United Kingdom. I have to worry myself. I'm going over there in the summer. I'm trying to wonder what the fuck is happening in that country.
Me
The
too, I'm
funny thing is,
scared.
no one else seems to care, so we'll just sit there and ponder that, Linda.
But I'm scared. But I'm scared. The truth is, I'm scared because I wanted to go to London too, and I said, and what if they arrest me?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you have to hire a lawyer, because if they can come to the house of a man and tell him that they're here to investigate, and you know what he posted, that man? That he's fed up to see all these Palestinian flags in the
Yeah.
city,
Yeah.
okay? Because he's British. He's
Okay.
sorry. I mean, he has to say that he's sorry because, I mean,
Is this not a police state? This is an authoritarian police state, no different to 1933, but it's not 1933 Munich. It's 2025 London. What the fuck is happening there? Why is no one, other than the usual suspects who constantly get cancelled because they're considered right wing, why does no one else bring this up? Why is this not an issue for the left, for anyone? I
or a
don't
man,
understand why this is a non
or
issue.
listen, they can go for the Ramadan, but they can take over Times Square, the British Parliament. I don't know what it's called, Westminster. I don't. They can all cook. I mean, there's thousands of mosques all over the world, to pray there, okay, or in front of the White House and everything. But a Christian man praying in silence, is praying in silence. Is not uttering a word. Is arrested.
They did say
So
that
there is a war on
but
Christian.
you're or the woman who was quietly standing outside an abortion clinic praying inside. She's arrested. Police state.
Netflix
It's
and
the
Netflix
police state.
won't do a series about little kids in England who are taught how to pray like Muslims, you know, to kneel on the carpet and to pray. Or in Christian schools, people are putting their kids in Christian schools because, or because they're Christians and they want their kids to, to have this education, or because public schools are not really safe today for many children. And even in these schools, they are taught how to cover their head and everything. And I say, but the F, what the fuck is happening? Who is behind all of that? Me, I want to go after there's somebody. I mean, it's not organic, all these things. It doesn't just happen. There is something, I mean, people behind all of that. And not only in England, in Germany, in Sweden, in all over. When is it going to end? That's what I want to know. When is it going to end? And for me, the fact that they did this series about this young boy and to indict, because that was an indictment of the white working class in England. That was an indictment. They want to indict them because they want to discredit their concerns.
Position, yes.
Their
And
concerns.
then, yep.
We went from one subject to the other, but they all related somehow and somewhere.
It's what happens when you have a conversation. But there's so
Exactly.
much happening in the world. As we said, it's like literally it's stuck in rush hour with a traffic jam, and there's 101, and there's an earthquake, a tsunami warning, a couple of traffic accidents, all happening at the one time while you're stuck in rush hour. That's the equivalent of what's been happening in the news.
And we have to do the next episode. Let's do USAID because that's another sweetheart.
Definitely. Golden moment. Happy to chat.
Happy to join.
I'm so hope we didn't keep everyone too long, but please, like, subscribe, do all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, like,
And
subscribe. Comment.
yeah, comments, we're happy to have them, even if you disagree.
Bye.
Bye.